Hey guys, I'm back here for the video. Guys, today we have the Fantasy Football Week 2 Waiver Wire ads. Now, I will be going ahead and, depending on how you guys like this, every single Tuesday we will have a Waiver Wire show where I go ahead and just do a video about the Waiver Wire and who to pick up on the Waiver Wire, starting quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends, and defense. Now, also, I will have my starts of the week later in the week every single Thursday. Plus, every single Thursday, I will go ahead and give my game predictions on who I think will win. Now, guys, this all depends on how much love and support you show these videos. If you really want this to happen, if you really want this to be a thing, this type of show, this type of series on my channel, I need you to go ahead and hit that like button down below. And also comment down below and tell me what's your current record in your fantasy league. Are you 1-0? Are you 0-1? Tell me down below, guys. The more love and support you show in these shows, the more I will go ahead and do them. It's kind of something new. This is a MUT channel, but, adding a fantasy football element to it would be kind of interesting. So I just wanted to go ahead and try it out and see how much you guys actually love and support it. So with that in mind, let's start off right away with quarterbacks. The three quarterbacks I think you guys should add are going to be Ryan Fitzmagic, Case Keenum, and Tyrod Taylor. Now, you might be looking at these three, and I actually put the matchups right next to who they play this week, and you might be like, Fitzmagic against the Eagles? Are you kidding me? Ryan Fitzpatrick sucks. Well, guys, last week, Ryan Fitzmagic had 47.1 points. 41.7 points. And he also had a rushing touchdown and 4 passing touchdowns. So this man, I don't know what's gotten into him, but what I kind of figure might happen is exactly what happened in the Saints game, where the Saints were able to go ahead in the end of the game. They were able to do this, not in the beginning, but the end. They were able to move the ball down the field and get into scoring ranges on the Bucs. And I feel like that will go ahead and help out Fitzpatrick. If anything, if the Eagles do score a lot of points because it's a shootout, that just means Fitzmagic will have a great, whole entire great fantasy day. Now, also another thing about Fitzmagic is not every ad I'm showing you guys is a start this week. I'm not saying pick this guy up and put him in your lineup day one. For example, Fitzmagic does have Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Atlanta, Cleveland, my bad, not Cleveland twice. Chicago, Atlanta, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Carolina, Washington, Giants, San Francisco. So he has some pretty good matchups, right? Matchups that you're going to want to start him in. When it comes to the waiver wire with quarterbacks, a lot of times I kind of just go with the whole, this is a streamer pick. You're only getting this guy because of the fact that you want to go ahead and, stream the quarterback. A lot of people already have their set aside quarterback they want for the whole entire year, myself included, being Kirk Cousins. So if you already have your quarterback, this is just a nice little pickup that you stash on your bench, and later down the line when you need a quarterback, maybe bye weeks or whatever may be the case, this is your guy you put in, and he should have a great week. Number 2, Case Keenum. Now, again, these three quarterbacks, a lot of people probably have put these guys in the garbage bin when it came to, ever drafting them in fantasy football. But Case Keenum last week had 329 yards, 3 touchdowns, scoring 22.2 points in fantasy football. Now, keep in mind, guys, fantasy football is a lot different than regular football. In regular football, you can suck, and in fantasy football, you can be a star. And that's just how it works. And you're going to see that with Tyrod Taylor. Now, Case Keenum does play against Oakland. Oakland gave up about 33 points to the LA Rams last night. Now, keep in mind when it comes to any of these stats, we are only looking after 1 week of football. Week 1 is very unpredictable. You never know what's going to happen week 2. And obviously, if we go back to a couple examples, Arizona Cardinals years back started out 4-0 and finished the year 4-12. So keep that in mind. We never know what's going to happen at week 1. But we can kind of get a good glimpse of what we can predict and kind of move forward with. In Case Keenum, number 2 gets to go against Oakland's defense. I kind of like that matchup, and I definitely want to go ahead and start him in this matchup. Again, if you have better options, do not start him over a Drew Brees. Do not start him over these star quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers. Actually, Aaron Rodgers is kind of questionable. But do not start him over these quarterbacks that, obviously are guaranteed start of the weeks. Why I see Aaron Rodgers is questionable is because he is still having issues with his knee. It is still swelling. Mike McCarthy said that there is no guarantee he will play against the Minnesota Vikings. He said in the interview that he believes 100% he will play. Aaron Rodgers said this. But when it comes to Mike McCarthy, he said he would not comment on the matter. So keep that in mind. If you have A-Rod, go ahead and keep a close eye and see what ends up happening with him. Because if he doesn't start, then you're going to want to go ahead and pick up one of these other guys as a waiver wire addition. Next guy we have here is going to be Tyrod Taylor versus the Saints. Now, Tyrod Taylor, you're going to look at him last week and see him against the Pittsburgh Steelers and think, oh, he was awful. He sucks. I don't want Tyrod Taylor. Well, guys, the beautiful thing about fantasy football is you do not have to do good in real life to be a good fantasy football quarterback. Tyrod Taylor had a 20-yard rushing touchdown, which gave him 10 points. Actually, wait, no, 9 points. He also had, let me go ahead and pull up his stat sheet right here. He also had 197 yards and 1 touchdown. And as I said, he also had 1 rushing touchdown. That's all it takes to get 24.6 points in football. And that's something Tyrod Taylor can do very effectively. He is great with running. He is great with he's not great with throwing, but he's great with running, and that's going to help him out in football, in fantasy football. He had 77 yards rushing on 8 attempts and 1 touchdown. And again, passing, he also had a pretty decent passing day. So against the Saints, what I really expected this game is the Saints are able to put up a lot of points. This is Drew Brees at home. Drew Brees at home is a monster when it comes to playing. Now, I know he played last week at home, and he honestly did put up a heck of a game. If you saw him in fantasy, Drew Brees had like 30 points. He had 439 yards and 3 touchdowns. This should be the same concept this week against the Cleveland Browns. Even though Cleveland has a better defense than they have in previous years, I think that he's going to have a really good day against the Saints. So let's go ahead and start off right away with start of the week. My start of the week is going to be the Philip Rivers versus the Buffalo Bills. Now, I know most of my start of the weeks, I'm going to try my best to go ahead and pick guys that aren't really on teams to go ahead and start. And if I had to choose a guy that wasn't on the team to go ahead and be my start of the week, I would honestly probably choose Case Keenum, just because he is playing against Oakland, and I feel like that will be a high-scoring affair. But again, if it wasn't Case Keenum, I would choose Philip Rivers. So if you have Philip Rivers and you have maybe drafted him later in like the 10th, 11th round, and you also have another quarterback, I would definitely consider starting Philip Rivers over another option this week, depending on who your other option is, of course. And again, the top 5 quarterbacks in fantasy football, do not start them over top 5. Let's go ahead and move on. Number 2, running backs. 3 running backs I recommend going ahead and picking up: Philip Lindsay versus Oakland, TJ Yeldon versus the Patriots, and Austin Eckler versus Buffalo Bills. Now, when it comes to number 2, let's go ahead and break this down. So, the coach for the Jaguars said that, as you guys know, Leonard Fournette has a hamstring injury. But the coach for the Jaguars said it is in a good part of his leg. Now, you might be like, wait, what does that mean? It's a good part of his leg. Well, pretty much what that means is that it's not going to be as dangerous as he's out for the year, okay? So he might miss 1, 2, 3 weeks. He might miss a short amount of time. He's not going to miss a large amount of time. Where if the hamstring was in a different part of his leg, we could be talking about a long injury and TJ Yeldon being the starter. This TJ Yeldon pickup would just be for handcuffs for anyone who has Leonard Fournette, or someone who is desperate this week and needs someone to start for them. Now, when it comes to Philip Lindsay, he looks like he might be taking over as the Denver running back. And if he does, this could be really, really awesome. Currently, Denver is kind of going with the whole strategy of feeding the hot hand, and that could be something that Philip Lindsay could go ahead and really benefit from. And obviously, you know, we're going to have to wait and see what ends up happening, but he looks like to be the starter at the moment. Again, if they keep the hot hand strategy where whoever's doing the best gets the ball, Lindsley's going to have to keep doing it, but he could be a really productive player in fantasy football. And third we have is Austin Eckler. Now, I don't really like to talk about backups, and especially picking up backups on fantasy football, unless we're talking about the end of the season when we're getting into the fantasy playoffs and we're getting into that kind of realm. Right now, we're not in that realm. And I know right now you're looking at 2 fantasy backups, or handcuffs technically, I'm saying to pick up. Austin Eckler, first off, the Chargers are playing the Bills. If you guys did not see what the Ravens did to the Bills last week, go ahead and take a highlight reel, take a step back in time, and realize the Ravens beat them 47-3. Now, the Ravens were not able to effectively run the ball as well, mainly because it was raining like crazy, like cat and dogs, and Alex Collins fumbled the ball twice. But other than that, though, when it comes to just the Buffalo Bills in general, they have an awful run defense. And last week, Austin Eckler had a really phenomenal game. Not doing too much, but definitely capitalizing off the plays he did have. I believe that the same concept will happen. I believe in this game that the Chargers will get ahead by a lot of points in this game very early on. Then I believe that Melvin Gordon, obviously if they're ahead by a lot, they're not going to go ahead and overuse Melvin Gordon. They're going to start using Austin Eckler more. Also, as we saw last week, Austin Eckler is a part of this offense in some way. Against Buffalo's weak defense and their weak run D, this should be a great start. And you can see right there, my start of the week is Austin Eckler. So guys, let's go ahead and move on to the next position, and that's going to be wide receiver. My 3 receivers we have today are going to go ahead and be Philip Dorsett, we have Quincy Enunwa, and we have Brandon Marshall. Now, Philip Dorsett is going against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Ooh, bad matchup. As I said, not everyone I recommend picking up is a must-start week 1. Oh, this current week. He's not a start. Do not start him. I do not want to see him against Ramsey or against Mr. A.J. Aboye. Nonetheless, though, Quincy Enunwa versus the Dolphins, I like this matchup, and I definitely would start him if you are desperate for a wide receiver option. Number 3 is going to be Brandon Marshall versus the Bears. Now, last week, obviously, Seattle played Denver. They actually lost that game, very close game, but they did end up losing it. I think Brandon Marshall should have a phenomenal game against the Chicago Bears. Personally speaking, yes, their pass rush is probably one of the best in the league, and the Bears defensively is one of the best units. But at the same time, we all see Russell Wilson running around doing these crazy, phenomenal plays. Brandon Marshall being a big target, especially with Doug Baldwin being hurt, Brandon Marshall should get an uptick in targets. And my start of the week is going to be Ted Ginn Jr. versus the Cleveland Browns. As I said before, I believe the Cleveland Browns will go ahead and give up a lot of points in this matchup to the New Orleans Saints. I think Ted Ginn Jr. should have a phenomenal game for that reason. Next guy we have here is going to be the tight end position. The tight end position, of course, going ahead and starting off with Jared Cook. Number 2, Will Dinsley. Number 3, George Kittle. Now, let's start off with number 1. Jared Cook had a phenomenal game against the LA Rams. Now, I'm not saying 100%. Obviously, again, that was only a 1-week performance. We can't go ahead and we don't have a whole body of work to look at Jared Cook this year. But what we can say is that he should be able to, if not repeat, do at least decent in this second matchup. Number 2, Will Dinsley. Now, this guy is a guy that I recommend putting on your bench and never seeing the light of day. What I mean by that is you do not want to start Will Dinsley. He is a Seattle's tight end, and before this week, he was considered a special teams guy or a backup, no fantasy value at all by most experts. Now, at the same time, you might be like, then why am I even trying to pick him up? Because last week he had 105 yards and a touchdown, accumulating 19.5 points. Now, will he become anything? We really don't know. And you can see right here, my start of the week is him because I feel like he will have a great game versus the, not the Oakland Raiders. He will have a great game versus the Chicago Bears. Nonetheless, though, we're going to have to wait and see what ends up happening with him because I'm not sure if he's going to go ahead and be that, star that we really think he's going to be. I don't know. I mean, we have to wait and see on what ends up happening. But with that in mind, I definitely feel like he should have a decent week. If anything, maybe Russell will go back to targeting him and he'll have a great game. So that's why he's my start of the week, but he's only my start of the week if you have no other options. In all honesty, I'd probably rather have Jared Cook than him in this week's matchup. But if you want a boom or bust type of player, that's why I put him at start of the week. Because he is could be the biggest boom you could hit. But at the same time, he could be a bust. Number 3 is going to be George Kittle. George Kittle plays the Detroit Lions. And after last night's performance with the New York Jets, I think the Lions need a break, my man. I think the Lions need a long break. And I think George Kittle could come in and do just that. Destroy Detroit Lions. And finally, guys, our last one we have is going to be defenses. Defenses, we have Chargers, Saints, and Rams. I already talked about this before, many times. Chargers is number 1 on my list. Buffalo Bills, Chargers number 1. They're playing the Buffalo Bills. Number 2 is going to be the Saints. They are playing the Cleveland Browns. Number 3, the LA Rams. Let me go ahead and check out exactly who they're playing again. I believe they are playing the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona last week got shut out. Not shut out, sorry. They lost 24-6 to the Washington Redskins. This should be another great game for the Rams. Oh, sorry. The Rams last week. This week they played Arizona. Arizona. Last week they went ahead and played Oakland. So this week they play Arizona, and again, Arizona last week got shut out 24-6. Well, they didn't get shot, but lost 24-6 to the Washington Redskins. They should have a great game, the Rams, again, and I expect the Rams to do really wonders in this ball game. Last week they had 15 points on defense. I expect a little bit more this week. We're going to have to wait and see what ends up happening in Arizona, though, because Arizona looks really weird. I don't know what's happening with Arizona. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. See you guys in the next one. Peace out.